1992, the city burned. But the lesson still ain't learned. Check it.
April 29th, the verdict came down. 4 cops walked free, the whole city frowned. Rodney King on the pavement, 56 blows, but the jury said not guilty. That's how justice goes in America, where your skin tone determines your fate. Video evidence clear, but they couldn't relate to the pain and the anger building up for years. Now the streets exploding with collective tears. South Central burning, Florence and Normandy. People lost their minds cause they lost their harmony with a system that protects the badge and not the man. While we fight for basic rights that we should understand are guaranteed by law but ignored in reality. Check the Constitution for some cold brutality, written by slave owners claiming all men equal, but 3/5 of a person was the original sequel. I watched from my window as the flames lit the sky, wondering if justice was a beautiful lie, told to keep us peaceful while they beat us down in broad daylight with cameras all around. Reginald Denny pulled from his truck and attacked. Violence begets violence, that's a cold hard fact. But don't get it twisted, I ain't condoning the hate, just explaining the explosion when pressure gets too great. Korean store owners caught up in the mix, community tensions that the media tricks into racial divides when the real enemies, the system that oppresses you and me with ease. 53 people died in just a few days, property destroyed in so many ways. But property can be rebuilt, trust cannot, when the people lose faith in the justice they thought.
When the smoke cleared away, what did we learn? That bridges need building when cities burn. From the ashes of rage we must rise above. Replace the hate with knowledge, replace fear with love.
These days of chaos, National Guard deployed, while politicians pointed fingers, truth they destroyed with sound bites and spin instead of taking blame for decades of neglect, fueling the flame of discontent brewing in forgotten neighborhoods where police patrol like occupying hoods, covering their own instead of serving and protecting the people they swore to, but now they deflecting responsibility for the powder keg they created with policies and practices discriminatory and dated, redlining, profiling, systematic oppression, leading to this moment of violent expression. But violence ain't the answer, though I understand the rage. We need to turn this pain into power on the stage of politics and protests, organized and planned, cause scatter riots won't help us take a stand. From the ashes came awareness, at least for some of the issues that we face, where the hatred comes from, not inherent in our nature but learned through experience of injustice so blatant, so severe and serious that people reach their breaking point and lose control. But we must find another way to save our collective soul. Education, legislation, peaceful demonstration, building bridges between each race and every nation, within our city limits, within our state of mind, leaving 1992 and its lessons behind, not forgotten but transformed into positive action instead of negative reaction and factional attraction to violence as solution. That ain't revolution. True change comes through mental constitution and restructuring the systems that oppress and divide. We all bleed the same color when we're hurt inside.
April 29th, we remember the day when Los Angeles burned in its own dismay. But from the fire came a phoenix of hope, that one day we'll find better ways to cope with injustice.
March 3rd, 1991. George Holliday's camera captured 81 seconds that changed America. This is for Rodney.
Speeding down the 210, just trying to get home. Never knew that night would put him in a danger zone. California Highway Patrol began to chase until LAPD arrived to put him in his place. Tasered, beaten, 56 baton strikes while officers stood around like they was on strike. From human decency, basic humanity, 4 cops versus 1 man, call it insanity. George Holiday with his camera on the balcony recorded 81 seconds of police brutality. Raw footage showing what we always knew was true, but seeing it on video was something entirely new for white America, who lived in denial of the systematic torture lasting for a while. And black and Eddie Glenn King, 25 years old. His story of survival needs to be told. Not just the beating, but the man behind the pain, who asked, can we all get along in the rain of media attention and public scrutiny, while lawyers and politicians claim purity of intention. But the video don't lie, show the world what happens when respect dies. Between the badge and the citizen is sworn to serve, got the whole community sitting on edge and nerve, waiting for justice, waiting for the trial, hoping that this time truth will prevail. Pacific Valley jury, all white, no black, saw the same video, but they vision lacked the context of oppression, the weight of history, how this beating fit into a larger mystery. 81 seconds changed everything, showed the violence that police brutality bring to communities who've been screaming for years that nobody listened to control through their tears. 4 officers charged, coon power when prison, no, but acquittal came down like a fatal casino, where the house always wins and the people always lose, unless you got connections or the right skin used. Stacy Coon, Loris Power leading the attack, Theodore Bracino, Timothy Wynn, watching Rodney's back get broken by the batons of the boys in blue, who swore to protect but they just ran through every law they were supposed to uphold. Story of abuse that needed to be told, not just Rodney's story, but the thousands more who suffered in silence behind closed doors, without a camera present, without a witness to testify about police malicious fitness for duty and service to communities they hate, using badges as licenses to intimidate. The verdict sparked riots, but that ain't the point. Violence ain't the answer to heal this broken joint of society where justice supposed to be blind, but clearly it's selective, clearly it's designed to protect certain people and prosecute the rest. Put the system on trial, put justice to the test. Rodney King became a symbol of something much larger than one man's beaten by one police charger in the battle against citizens they supposed to guard. Evidence was clear, but conviction was hard to achieve in the system built to acquit. The blue wall of silence that they never admit exists to protect corruption and abuse of power, while communities suffer every single hour under occupation disguised as protection. Time for some serious police introspection. Federal trial came later, 2 got convicted, but by then the damage to trust was inflicted deep in the psyche of people who already knew that justice ain't equal. For me and you, Rodney got a settlement, money for his pain, but can't buy back innocence or trust again in institutions that's supposed to serve justice when they clearly demonstrate they can't be trusted. His question still echoes, can we get along while police departments still singing the same song of denial and deflection, protection and service, but their actions make communities nervous. This beat goes on, the story ain't finished, though decades get past, problems ain't diminished. Rodney King's legacy lives in every protest against police brutality and social unrest. 81 seconds of video proof that systematic racism ain't no spoof or conspiracy theory, it's reality raw, captured on camera for all to see. Y'all, can we all get along? Time will tell. June 12th, 1994, Brentwood. The chase, the glove, the verdict that divided a neighborhood and a nation. Let me break it down. Orenthal James from the projects to fame, Heisman Trophy winner, NFL Hall of Fame. But June 12th changed everything in his life when they found Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman's knife. Wounds, blood evidence scattered on the scene. Media circus started, know what I mean. America was watching every single detail while the prosecution built their case for jail. White Bronco chase, 95 million viewers watching o.j.Simpson with his true believers in the backseat, gun to his head, ready to die while helicopters follow through the LA sky. AC Callens driving, talking him down from suicide to surrender in his hometown where he once was a hero. Now he's suspect number 1 in a double murder case that's just begun. Judge Lance Ito presiding, cameras in the court. Johnny Cochran defending with his legal fort. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. Bloody glove demonstration was a perfect hit for the defense strategy. Reasonable doubt, while Marcia Clark tried to figure it out, how someone so beloved could be so despised by the evidence that couldn't be disguised. DNA, blood drops, hair and fiber. Mark Foreman with the N-word, credibility died, sir, when those tapes surfaced showing racial hate from the cop who found evidence sealed OJ's fate. Or did it? Defense painted a a conspiracy. LAPD corruption, systematic bigotry, planting evidence, framing a black man who broke barriers, had success they couldn't stand. Guilty or innocent, the verdict divided. Black and white America, neither side confided. Injustice being served the way it should. Trial of the century, misunderstood. 9 months of testimony, evidence galore, but this case was bigger than what happened at the door of Nicole's condo. This was about race in America's justice system, true face to face with perception, bias and historical pain of black men lynched while white killers remain free to walk the streets, not a day in jail, while O.J. faced death, the ultimate betrayal for many in the community who saw themselves in the defendant's chair, asking for help from a system that historically failed to protect black lives, black rights, basic respect. Rodney King still fresh in everybody's mind. How video evidence left justice blind. So when O.J. walked free, some people cheered, not for him but for the precedent that appeared. But 2 families lost their loved ones that night. Goldman and Brown families fight the good fight for closure, for justice, for truth to prevail beyond the circus atmosphere and media's tale of fallen heroes and American dreams. Nothing's ever simple as it seems when race and class and fame collide with murder, justice, and national pride. Fred Goldman's pain, Lou Brown's grief, seeking answers, seeking relief from questions that the trial couldn't resolve about guilt, innocence, and how to evolve beyond the divisions that this case exposed. In a society where justice is supposed to be colorblind, equal under law, but we witnessed something different that we all saw. October 3rd, 1995, the verdict came down. The nation came alive with celebration and devastation, split along the lines of race across the nation. Not guilty echoed through the courtroom walls, while outside different crowds made different calls. Some saw justice finally served to a black man, others saw a killer escape the legal plan. Civil trial later found him liable for wrongful death. Money was pliable when criminal evidence wasn't enough. Different standards of proof, the system's bluff, called into question once again by the outcome that divided women and men, black and white, rich and poor. What was this trial really for? Truth may never fully come to light about what happened on that June night, but the trial showed us who we really are. A nation divided, still bearing the scars of slavery, Jim Crow, and police abuse, where race still matters in the system's use of justice, or the lack thereof. Can we ever rise above? Can we ever rise above? Can we ever rise above? Can we ever rise above?
October 16th, 1995, Washington, D.C. A million men marching in unity for atonement, for change, for responsibility. Let me paint the picture of what we came to see.
Called by Minister Farrakhan to gather as one. Black men from every walk, every place we come from the boardroom to the block, from the church to the street, standing side by side where history meets the present moment on the Capitol steps, where laws been passed that our people accept or reject, but never had the power to write. Now we congregate to set our future right. 1 million strong, maybe more, who's counting? Media tried to downplay, but the energy's mounting. From sea to shining sea, brothers made the trip, not for protest, but for fellowship and accountability for actions we done to our women, our children, ourselves, everyone in our communities suffering from our neglect. Time to look in the mirror, time to reflect. Not a march for handouts or government aid, but a march for self-reliance that we ourselves made. A commitment to change from the inside out. What black masculinity really about? Fathers returning to homes they abandoned, sons learning responsibility, not taking it for granted. Brothers checking brothers when they acting wrong, building community bonds that keep us strong. Minister Louis speaking truth to power, but also to ourselves in this critical hour of decision. Will we rise or will we fall? Will we answer when our people call for leadership, for guidance, for protection from the self-destruction and misdirection that plagued our communities for far too long? Time to right our wrongs, sing a different song. Million men marching, standing tall with pride, not running from problems, but facing them side by side. Day of atonement, day of recommitment to our families, our future, our spiritual enrichment. Million men marching, standing tall with pride, not running from problems, but facing them side by side. Day of atonement, day of recommitment to our families, our future, our spiritual enrichment. From Harlem to Houston, Detroit to DC, brothers came together in solidarity. Doctors, lawyers, teachers, mechanics, street sweepers, all united as black men, all truth seekers, seeking redemption for mistakes we made, seeking direction for the price we paid in broken families, in communities torn by violence, drugs, and spirits worn down by oppression, both external and internal, some imposed by others, some self-referential. Time to take responsibility for our own actions instead of blaming everything on outside factions. Yes, racism exists, systematic and real, but we control how we think, how we feel, how we treat our women, how we raise our sons, how we build our businesses till the work is done. Maya Angelou spoke about the power of words. Rosa Parks reminded us how change occurs through courage and commitment, not just complaint. Ordinary people becoming something they ain't been before. Heroes, leaders, pioneers, fighting through the struggle, conquering their fears. Benjamin Chavez coordinated the logistics while the Nation of Islam handled crowd statistics. But this wasn't about one group or religion. This was about black men making a decision to stand up, speak up, be accountable for building communities sustainable and strong enough to weather any storm. Economic, social, or political reform, starting with the man in the mirror first before we try to quench society's thirst. Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, leaders old and new, standing with the masses, not just the chosen few. Gang members and pastors sharing the same space, putting aside differences for the unity of race. Not racial supremacy, but racial healing from centuries of trauma, pain revealing itself in broken families and violence. Time to break the cycle in the silence that allows our problems to perpetuate while we wait for someone else to change our fate. The march was symbolic, but the work starts at home, in every black household, every black dome, where children learn values, where fathers take stands, where mothers are respected, where love expands beyond the boundaries of hurt and neglect, to rebuild what oppression worked to disconnect. Critics said Farrakhan was too divisive, his anti-Semitic remarks too decisive in creating controversy around the event. But a million men still came, still went to Washington to make a statement clear that black men can organize without fear of external validation or permission from those who never supported our mission of self-determination and community building. Despite the media's attempts at character killing of the organizers, the message stayed pure: atonement and responsibility, that's for sure. We came to pledge on that October day when we gathered to worship, to learn, to pray for strength to change what we could control, and wisdom to heal our collective soul. One day, 1 million men, one promise made, to do better by our families. Let the old ways fade into history while we write a new chapter of black manhood before and after. October 16th, the day we stood as one. The work continues till the job is done. So do you mean move? Television. They said they play our music, but what they did to hip-hop was straight up pollution. Let me explain. Started in 81 with rock and roll dreams, but hip-hop crashed the party, bursting the seams of their white suburban fantasy world. When MTV Raps got unfurled in 1988, Fab Five Freddy hosted.
Ed Lover and Dr. Dre boasting about the culture that the streets had created, while MTV executives finally calculated the dollars and the cents of urban music, but they wanted to control how we use it. Image over substance, flash over skill. Corporate boardrooms deciding what's real and what's not. What gets the rotation, what fits their idea of crossover sensation, while underground classics never see the light, cause they don't fit the formula for MTV's site.
Total Request Live got Carson daily, counting down videos daily, but barely playing the real hip-hop that moves the mass. Instead they push the pop rap that the mainstream passes off as authentic culture, but it's manufactured by suits who never live what they captured in glossy production, expensive sets, while real MCs struggle to pay their debts and get exposure for the art they perfected. In basement studios often rejected by A&Rs looking for the next big thing that'll sell the suburban kids, make the register ring, but compromise the message and water down the sound, so hip-hop's authenticity can't be found in the videos playing on heavy rotation. Just corporate contamination.
MTV changed the game, now it's all about the look. Image over lyric, style over the hook. Video budgets bigger than some rappers' whole career, while real hip-hop artists disappear. MTV changed the game, now it's all about the look. Image over lyric, style over the hook. Video budgets bigger than some rappers' whole career, while real hip-hop artists disappear.
Remember when rap was just beats and rhymes, before the flashy videos and expensive chimes of jewelry chains designed to catch the camera's eye, while the message gets lost in the visual lie. Now rappers need stylists, choreographers too, directors telling stories that ain't even true to the artist's experience, but it tests well with focus groups who help the video sell. The demographics that never understood the struggle that created hip-hop in the hood, where we had nothing but turntables and mics, and that was enough to move the crowd all night. But MTV said we need more production value, more special effects to make the culture salable to mainstream audiences who pay the bills, while underground talent gets pushed up the hills. Yo, MTV raps was a blessing and curse. Gave us exposure but made things worse in some ways, cause it opened the door for exploitation like we never seen before. Record labels signing anything with a beat, flooding the market with artists incomplete in the understanding of what hip-hop means. Beyond the money and the magazine scenes of photo shoots and interviews scripted tight to fit the narrative that feels just right for suburban consumption and global sales, while the culture's true spirit becomes stale from overexposure and commercialization. MTV's version of hip-hop across the nation became the standard, became the norm, while the essence got lost in the perfect storm. Spring break parties, beach house requests, MTV pushing what they think is best for hip-hop's image, party and bullshit instead of conscious rap that makes the culture fit together like puzzle pieces unified. Now it's fragmented, commercialized into bite-sized pieces for mass consumption based on market research and sales assumption. But real hip-hop heads know the difference between authentic art and corporate interference. We still support the artists who keep it true, while MTV promotes the fake and new jack swing fusion that sounds like pop with a hip-hop beat, but the culture drop gets more diluted every time they play another manufactured hit today. Don't get me wrong, exposure helps some cats get their message out, help them get their stacks up to support their families and communities, while building hip-hop's cultural immunities to criticism in attempts to shut us down. MTV helps spread the sound around the world, globalizing what we created, even if the process was complicated by corporate interests and profit motives that don't align with hip-hop's true objectives of speaking truth to power, lifting up the people, not just entertaining like we're dancing for the steeple of consumerism and capitalist greed that plants the commercial seed in fertile ground where art should grow, but money talks and artists go with the flow of industry demands, instead of making their own stands for artistic integrity and cultural respect. MTV gave us reach but took our connect to the streets where it all began. Now it's time to take back what we can of hip-hop soul from corporate control, and remember what makes the culture whole.
told us they'd play our music, a brand new sound. But their vision was twisted, so hollow and profound. They showed us the pictures, the glitz and the gleam, but the spirit we cherished became just a dream. It's a bittersweet echo, a sorrowful tune, a cold distant star beneath a pale moon.
Yeah, the beat drops in, jazz fades to a hard knock, from a soft rhythm to a sudden raw shock. The music's the truth, cutting straight through the smoke. This is the sound of a promise that they broke. They started with rock in their TV world, but then MTV rap got unfurled. In 1988, Fab Five, Freddy Ed Lover and Dr. Dre came, and suddenly hip-hop wasn't just a street game. They saw the dollars and cents of the urban beat, but wanted control, making our art incomplete. Image over substance, that was the new rule. Corporate boardrooms deciding what's real and what's cool. Remember Total Request Live with Carson Daly. They push pop rap daily, barely playing the real sound that moved the masses. Instead of the manufactured pop, the mainstream passes off as authentic culture, but it's just a lie from suits who never lived it with a glossy eye. Real MCs were rejected for the next big thing, something to sell the suburban kids, make the register ring. Yo, MTV Raps was a blessing and curse, gave us a platform but made things worse. Record labels signed artists with no real heart, flooding the market, tearing the culture apart. Our authenticity got watered down and lost at spring break parties, and at what cost? They push party and bullshit, not the conscious art, fragmenting the culture, ripping it apart.
Saxophone mourns, boom bap beats roll on. The spirit of hip-hop will forever be strong. We'll take back the soul from corporate control, and remember the streets that made the culture whole.